During negotiations in Turkey, a solution to the grain blockade in Ukraine was found. Russia and Ukraine at least signed an agreement. So Russia and Ukraine have agreed a solution with the United Nations and Turkey for the export of millions of tons of grain from war-torn Ukraine. Both states signed corresponding agreements separately in Istanbul, mediated by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Before the Russian war of aggression, Ukraine was one of the most important grain exporters in the world. Even if no one has heard about this, well, a lot of people haven't. The deal opens the way for large-scale commercial food exports from three key Ukrainian Black Sea ports, Odessa, Chernomorsk and Yuzhny. That's what Gutierrez said. This is an agreement for the world. And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, also present at the ceremony, called the day historic. He expects shipping to start in the coming days, although his picture with Putin was not a wise move. Because of the Russian war of aggression against the neighboring country, around 20 million tons of grain cannot be exported from Ukraine. However, the food is urgently needed on the world market, especially in Asia and Africa. The United Nations recently warned of the worst famine in decades. Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke to Erdogan about the grain conflict at a meeting in the Iranian capital Tehran on Tuesday. According to the United Nations, a humanitarian corridor has now been agreed between Ukraine and also the Bosporus, the strait between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Accordingly, the export is monitored by a joint coordination center with representatives of the United Nations, Russia, Ukraine, and Turkey in Istanbul. A senior UN official called the center the heartbeat of the operation. According to the information, the parties also agreed that ships bound for Ukraine would first be searched in Istanbul to ensure that they were not carrying weapons or the like. There should be another check in Turkey if the ships coming from the Ukraine want to leave the Black Sea again. This is to ensure that only grain is on board. That had been a condition of Russia, by the way. Ships in the humanitarian corridor and the ports involved should not be attacked. This point is interpreted in New York in such a way that a ceasefire should actually apply in these strategically important places, for example, in the port of Odessa. The agreement is said to be initially valid for 4 months. However, the United Nations made it officially clear that an extension until the end of the war was sought. According to the United Nations, the implementation of the agreement and thus the export of food from Ukraine could take a few more weeks. But there's another topic on that war at the moment. What are the reserves of the Russian military? Because the British Secret Service MI6 believes that the forces will soon dwindle and Ukraine could use that. Because according to British intelligence information, the Russian military will probably take a kind of pause in operations, of course in Ukraine, in the coming weeks. This would give Ukraine an opportunity to counterattack. That's what MI6 chief Richard Moore said at the Aspen Security Forum in Colorado. Because so far, according to conservative estimates, around 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in the war in Ukraine. It will become increasingly difficult for the Russian military to get personnel and material in the coming weeks. I think they are about to run out of breath, Moore said. However, Moore added that the war was apparently not over. The Russians could have made land gains, but the progress is very small. The military is extremely brutal when it comes to conquering a city. If they take a city, there's nothing left. It's wiped out, Moore said. The head of the Foreign Intelligence Service, on the other hand, continues to rate the morale of the Ukrainian armed forces as very high. In addition, the military have received new weapons. Moore still expects more difficult months. However, you have to show strength also to demonstrate steadfastness towards China. It is currently still unclear what conclusions the regime there will draw from the war of aggression. According to Moore, Chinese President Xi Jinping is to keep a close eye on events in Ukraine. Obviously, if Russia can get through with a lot of things, they will believe they can do the same with Taiwan. And I'll see you in my next video. Ich komme wieder.